We are waiting for a city council meeting that's still going on across the street. We think it's over in a few minutes. But I have with me tonight the president of your police commission, Mr. Beaver, and he wants to speak about a few things he's going to do to help out the police department. So I'm going to let him speak. Why not take advantage of the time?
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that. I know a lot of you people here. Some of you know me, but in case you don't, I'm the chairperson for the Calexico Police Advisory Committee. We meet on the last Thursday of every month at the City Hall chamber. If you guys have any suggestions, any inputs, or complaints, whatever, to improve the city of Calexico, you're welcome to those meetings. It's very informal, and we encourage you to attend those meetings. The chief is most of the time there, so if you need to make any direct contact, this would be an opportunity. So we look forward to seeing you there. Any questions? Should I say it in Spanish?
So I just wanted to say something about the police advisory board. I realize that there's been a time here where there's been kind of a break in the relationship with the former chief and some, relationships with some members of my department. And sometimes you're a little leery about coming and talking to the police department about issues. Well, that's why I have a police advisory board. So I know he's going to pass out some information to you about how to contact them. And feel free to do it. I see him as just another one of my community partners. So I know what's happening in the city of Calexico. And they've been very valuable. They've come to me with a lot of really good information that I otherwise wouldn't know. And I'm always looking for more sources of the truth of what's happening in the city of Calexico. And they're just another avenue of that. Mr. Beaver has agreed to step in as the new chairman. I appreciate him doing that. It's no small task to do something for nothing, which is what he's doing. Something for nothing. He's doing it to serve you as a city. So thank you, Mr. Beaver. Can we give him a hand? Yeah. Thank you. So I'm just waiting for the call from one of my lieutenants who's over at the city council meeting, and I believe they're going to break. We were working really hard to make sure we didn't have this meeting tonight. That's why they were having the city council meeting. And there's something about the dark side of the city that doesn't like the light being shined on it. And I love shining light on the dark, so I understand how all that works. I'm okay with all of that. I knew that when I came here. When I took this job almost 8 months ago, I was surprised that it would last maybe a few weeks, a couple of months. And I made it almost 8 months, so it's already a miracle run. God wanted this to happen, so it's happening. But I'm also smart enough to know, after 4 decades in law enforcement, my days are numbered. Because that's the way Calexico works up until now. So while my days are numbered, I promise I'm going to give you all the service you expect. My department is completely changed. The officers that are currently in uniform wearing a badge and carrying a gun, you can trust. They're actually good, honest, hard-working police officers that care about you and not themselves. I had a group that only cared about themselves, ripped off the city for every possible thing they could, including 2 former chiefs of police, which are no longer with us. So we're going to talk about some of that tonight because we now have the results of all of that. So there's a very concerted effort now to get rid of me and the city manager. And I'm just clear about it. I'm okay with that. They have the right to do that. But you as the citizens have the right to know why. And you're here tonight because you know why. You know why it's going on. And I'll give you a little more of those facts as we go. I don't believe they had time to fire the city manager tonight, although they were working really hard on it. They didn't get to it yet? Okay. So they didn't quite get to fire him tonight, so maybe next Tuesday night. And then all the other dominoes will fall as time comes, as the compadre system is reestablished in the city of Calexico. So why would they want to do that? They want to do that because I'm getting really close to what a lot of them are up to. That's why they're pulling the shenanigans there are. Anybody who gets close to what they're up to, it's got to go. So I know you're smart people, and they pray that you're completely ignorant. I know you're not. They survive in ignorance, and that's why I love shining light. So I want to recognize one other person who's here tonight. Sean, would you stand for a second? Sean Acuna is your new president of the Police Officers Association. And I'd like you to give him a hand. He's here with a couple of his other board members, this is a new police union that actually cares about the city of Calexico instead of themselves, and they prove it by actions, not by words. They're working really hard with me to work on the reforms that we want to create in the department. They're very excited about becoming a professional police department. So you wouldn't have thought 7 months ago that I'd be standing up here going, way to go, Police Officers Association, but I am. They did it themselves. There's lots of pressure on them not to do it. They're being threatened every day by the guys that I fired for supporting me. Believe me, every day, whether it's on websites or in person or wherever. And so I'm really proud of these guys for standing up and wearing the badge proudly, and they're doing it to defend you, the city. So regardless of what happens to me, I know the department's in really good hands, and there's no way the darkness is coming back to the police department. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. So I'm still, how many of you came to the city council meeting? Is it over? Oh, they're still, yeah? Oh, they're still down. By the way, I got thrown out of the meeting by Mr. King. I had to remove myself from the meeting because I was being belligerent. So that's a new one. So I did, I removed myself from the meeting. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started, and then we'll let Mr. Warren catch up when he gets here. So I'm going to skip through his presentation, I think. No, wait a minute, that's mine. Go back, go back. I love technology when I can figure out how to make it work. Oh, now I really get it. Okay, so you notice this says Future of Calexico, and I put community service focused. None of the words that I choose on this slide projector are an accident. The way we're going to run this meeting tonight is this. We're not going to let anyone stand up in front of the mic and take up the whole night and talk about all their issues and everything. I want you as the community to have the opportunity to ask Richard and I questions that are on your heart and your mind, because you never get that opportunity. The city council hides behind their system to make sure you can't question what they're up to. That's why I have town hall meetings. I also have town hall meetings because I want you to have the chance to know what's going on in your city and in your department. So we have a bunch of 3x5 cards over there. It asks for your name. You don't even have to put your name on it. Okay? You can take that card, put a question on there, and I promise you I will answer it. Now the dark side would have you believe that I'm not going to answer your question if I don't like it. There's no question I don't like. If you've learned anything about me in the last 7 months, I'm not afraid to answer questions. And I will always be truthful with you. And Mr. Warren has agreed to do the same. So that's the reason we're passing out the cards. And no, I'm not going to edit which questions I answer and which ones I don't. And will you ask me some hard questions? Of course. You're probably going to ask me, am I really asking for $380,000 a year? Wonderful lie, not based on fact. But they would have you believe that. So we're going to do that. Those questions are over there. So as things come up, grab one of those cards, ask a question, and we'll answer at the end. So, I want to talk to you about, again, the future of Calexico. So we're going to be focused on community service, number one. The one thing I've noticed after all the audits have been conducted, after all the things we've done in the department and all the change of command is, community policing completely died in the city of Calexico about 5 years ago. It started under Chief Newchart, and it was completely destroyed under Chief Tabaras. Normally I don't mention names, but it's time for the people who are actually accountable for this mess. One who famously ran around the city saying he'd take a bullet for his men, Chief Tabaras, nowhere to be found. Not taking a bullet for anyone while his men are going down. And why would I do that? Because you need to know the truth. I'm going to tell you a little story. You have a school board president. I hope she's not here tonight, because man, I did not want to embarrass her. Here's a classic example. Just last week, I went over and met with the school board president. Not the president, the school board. She's the leader. She's not the school board leader, but she's the superintendent of schools. Incredibly good lady. What's her name? Anybody remember her? Maria. That's right. I couldn't remember her first name. So I walked into Maria's office. I wanted to talk to her about the future of our relationship, about putting cops back in the schools, working with the kids, getting back involved in community policing. And you know what the first thing she said to me was? "Why are you here? I thought you guys were never going to talk to me again." First question, I said, "Well, why do you think that?" "Well, I came over to talk to Chief Morris, and I was in there with two of his sergeants, and you know who they are. And he told me, unless I give him the amount of money he wants to run his school resource officers, he was going to pull them out. And she had no right to tell him what those officers did when they were in his school. They worked for him, and it was up to him." And of course, she's a wise woman and said, "I'm not going to waste the school district's money like that." And so he threw her out of her office, used all kinds of colorful language as he did it, and that ended the relationship with the schools. So why do I tell you about that? Because in our audits of what happened in community policing, it was a consistent theme throughout the city. Oops, there we go. Consistent theme throughout the city. The community policing was purposely shut down by the two chiefs of police. Then, they kept everybody out. Nobody inside the city could come in the police department. And there's only one reason for that: they don't want to know what they're up to. So it was a pretty consistent thing. So tonight I want to talk about a few things, a few of the audits and investigations that are still ongoing. I inherited 28 personnel complaint investigations from the former chiefs that were hidden in drawers, lockers, safes, all around the department. And they were using those investigations to extort the good officers to get in line with the illegal stuff that they were up to. So as we've worked our way through those, I think we have about 8 left. We've had 6 terminations. I think I only have 1 or 2 more really serious complaints to deal with. Thank God, because it's not fun to fire police officers, because they all have families. But I didn't choose the behavior they did. And you chose me to walk in and clean up the mess and hold those people accountable for that behavior. So we did that. So I have about 8 of those left. We have a couple of new ones that we've implemented since I've been here, but they're not major things because the people I have left actually want to be police officers, honor the badge, and do the right thing. And I'm really excited about that. They really do. They can't wait to do the right thing for the city. So we did a change of command audit. So in the state of California, there's an organization known as the Peace Officer Standards and Training that requires us to meet specific standards on how to run a department. So they just finished their audit. So I'm going to talk about some of that stuff that came up in that audit. In that audit, it was conducted by 2 high-ranking members, former members of the Los Angeles Police Department, actually old partners of mine that are working for Post. So obviously they did an extra special audit for me because we've known each other for years. They're really smart guys. So what did we find? So in the course of that change of command audit, the first thing we found was our evidence room was a disaster. Well, I knew that because all of you, as members of the community, said, "Whatever happened to my evidence? Whatever happened to all the jewelry they took from my house? Whatever happened to the money they took from my house?" And I was always shocked by it. "What do you mean what happened to it? You didn't get it back?" "No, I never got it back." "Well, it's all true, you didn't. It's all still sitting in the evidence room. It was never returned to its owners for nearly 9 years. For nearly 9 years. They have all this property collected that belongs to you, the citizens of Calexico, and they're hiding it from you. Why are they hiding it from you? Well, it turns out some of it's missing. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Right? So I don't know for sure that it's criminal activity, but, you know, we have to now investigate that, and we will. So I've given that to the FBI last week, and we're going to start looking into where did that go. And the reason it bothers me is it just puts another taint on myself and the really good officers here that are trying to do the right thing, you know? And we'll fix it. It's not a problem, we'll fix it. We'll get to the bottom of it. So, post-compliance. So there's training that every peace officer is supposed to have every 2 years. It's called perishable skills training. Use of force training, shooting training, self-defense training, arrest control. You know how to make arrests, do all that. Well, guess what? The entire department is completely out of compliance with Post. So we had a sergeant who was in charge of post compliance. So what did he do? He let all his friends and buddies go to all the different conferences to go to parties rather than go to post training. So he literally wasted your money so they could all go to these conferences and parties and have a great time, and they didn't even meet the post requirements in the training they went to. And that's been going on for at least 2.5, 3 years, that we can tell. So we have a plan to get us back in post compliance. It won't take us long. A lot of my officers know about the LAPD training and sheriff's training, so surprised. They actually asked me, can we go there? And so the LAPD and the LA County Sheriffs have agreed to retrain all our people. It's an awesome opportunity. We'll get it done fast. They'll get professional training, and they'll come back and they'll be much more confident in handling patrol situations. So I'm really excited about that. We're going to get that started probably in June or July if I'm still here. So, station security issues. We have incredible problems with station security. I've been asking the city for 7 months to fix our gates in the back of our police and fire station. And of course, it's on their schedule. They haven't gotten to it yet, but they eventually will. And so what happened last week? Wonderful story. We have a guy on camera. We finally caught him. He's in custody. And how we found out about it was he was riding a police bike, regular bicycle, in Mexicali. Mexicali police pull over and goes, "Where'd you get that?" Of course, he had no answer. So we go back and look at our tapes, and we find out 6 of our police bikes are missing from the salary port inside our station. And here's the guy on the camera, day after day, coming in, stealing our police bikes right out of our police station. So that's kind of crap we got going on. You can't make it up. It's like, I would say it's funny if it's not so sick that it happened right under our own nose at our own police station. So, 2013, 2014, very little police work was going on. There was a total internal dysfunction, and there was factions. What I mean by factions, there was officers up to violating every policy rule you could possibly think of, whether it was stealing overtime, going home pretending like they were working when they were at home and not at work, threatening other police officers, falsifying arrest reports. Everything you can think of was going on in the Calexico Police Department. And the honest cops who were trying to do the right thing, they were threatening them, sending them home off duty and putting them off duty for trying to report misconduct. 2 chiefs in a row were doing this. And this went on for a very long time. And the police union was behind all the threats. It was a very horrible time for the department. So then we audited everything, 2013, 2014. And a lot of you said to me over the last 7 months, there's nobody doing any police investigations. And I said, nah, give me a break. That's not true. Well, I found out it's true. 2 chiefs in a row, Nujar and Tavares, told your police officers not to report crimes if they didn't have a suspect or immediate fingerprints were an arrest window so they could keep the crime stats down. Your chiefs told your officers that. How do I know? My officers are now telling me that because I told them they have to report crime and they couldn't understand why if there's no suspect and no evidence. They literally couldn't understand why we would take a crime report. So then you'd come into the station and ask for your crime report that you thought they took when they came to see your call, and they didn't take one. They just wrote it down on an incident they had. So there was no crime report. So the problem with that is many. Number one, they didn't care enough about you as victims to investigate your crime. Number two, they violated state and federal law for crime reporting. And number three, 2 chiefs tried to cover up the crime rate in this city. And all of you used to say, there's a lot more crime than you know about, Chief. We just take care of it ourselves. Turns out it's true, you do. So this year we're starting to have crime rises. We're taking crime reports again. So I had a staff meeting last week. Mr. Ward's here, just like you. Lasted another week. You made it another week, Mr. Ward. So I hope you don't mind I started without you. I knew you wouldn't. Okay. He's kind of used to me doing this to him. So anyway, on to the crime reports. So then we went to the investigations unit. that's responsible to detectives for coming to your house, following up on your crime, arresting the suspects, prosecuting the case. They did not conduct one crime investigation for 2 solid years. 2 investigators and a sergeant. Full-time, their job was investigations. They conducted 0. 0. And when you ask them the question, how come? Chief didn't care whether we did or we didn't, so we didn't. I'm just telling you what they said. So we're conducting an investigation to get to the bottom of all of that. So then we find out, just in the last couple of months, as we're going through some of these other investigations, I'm looking at personnel complaints. And in 4 years in the city of Calexico, only 6 community personnel complaints were made against police officers. 6 total. No one believes that number. As soon as you see it on his face, it's just not true. Well, I now know why. The former chiefs of police said, you make people come to the police station to make a formal complaint. Why would they do that? Well, they know that that would intimidate you, so you wouldn't come and make a complaint. So guess what? You didn't. Then when you got to the police station, the supervisors pretended like they were Chief Tabaris and Chief Nujar and threw you out of the station. How do I know that? Because the victims are now coming forward. So that was going on in your department, not by the people that are currently there. I'm going to say that like 100 times tonight because I don't want the people that are wearing the badge and the uniform now to get painted with this brush. But you need to know the facts. So they were hiding the personnel complaints. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an online complaint form. We're going to create a community survey. And my officers don't need to be afraid of that, because I'm now giving them what they asked for, body cameras. We got that approved by the city council by a 5-0 vote. Whoa! I don't know how that happened. Yes, I do. I wasn't there that night. That's why it happened. I was in Germany on vacation, so they voted for it. Okay? So that's awesome. Now they have body cameras. We got them new tasers, the non-lethal weapons from the taser company, and we'll tape everything. Guess what? Everybody will be better. The cops will be better. So will the community if they know they're being videotaped. So you'll see a different relationship. So now when people come in and make frivolous complaints or honest complaints, we'll know right away. It won't be a mystery about what happened. And I think that's fantastic, both for my officers, most importantly, and for you, to feel comfortable coming and making complaints. Okay. I'm going to try to get through this quickly because I want to get to the question part. That's way more important to me. Okay, so the vision, the future vision for the city. So the most fantastic thing that I've probably accomplished in my entire policing career was something I would never do on purpose had I not known my days were numbered from the first day I got here. 32 hours after I got here, the city council was trying to fire me. So I'm a pretty bright guy. Sooner or later, they're going to get me, right? So I'm going through all this stuff, and I'm firing all these officers for misconduct. And I'm thinking to myself, how do I make sure this sticks and protects my community from those cops ever coming back, and protects my police officers who are constantly being intimidated by them from coming back? The Department of Justice and the U.S. Attorney. You probably see a lot of stuff on the news where they're taking over Baltimore, or they're taking over different departments. Well, I tried a new strategy with the Department of Justice because I used to work with them in L.A. when they were monitoring us for a few years when I was a chief in L.A. So I talked to the Department of Justice for about 3 months and said, hey, we'll voluntarily ask you to come in and help us rebuild my department. We'll sign a 3-year contract, whatever you need, but come and help us. My officers want to be retrained. We want to do the right thing. We want to make sure that they don't bring in another crooked chief, bring everybody back, and be back to the same old business in Calexico. God bless America, and I mean that sincerely. God bless America. The DOJ decided to do something they've never done, and they've got into a voluntary agreement with us to do that for the next 3 years. So you as a community of my police officers that are wearing the badge and carrying the gun now are protected from the dark side coming back to the Calexico Police Department. So I'm really proud of that. So another reason that's important is should they bring in another compadre, police chief, to kind of, bring the dark side back to the city, then what happens is the Department of Justice files suit against the city and takes it over. So they will always have that option. So I just want you to know as a community, no chief would do that on purpose because that creates so much work for me you have no idea. They're going to be breathing down my neck for 3 years, looking at everything I do, all the training, looking at all my officers, all our investigations. They're going to make sure we take personnel complaints. They're going to make sure we take crime reports. And it's a lot of work for us. But I was willing to do that because I knew my days were numbered. I needed to protect the good cops who've come forward and told the truth. So we're on to that. Okay, the other part of our audit. Our other part of our audit is our officers just kind of willy-nilly wander around the city doing whatever they want to do, and they don't really have any responsibility for a beat. That's going to change very quickly. So in a nutshell, your sergeants and police officers will have some piece of the territory in the city, and when there's a wave of vandalisms that are actually being reported on crime reports, they'll be working on those problems to prevent the vandalisms from continuing. The sergeants will be in charge of that community relationship. We're in the middle of trying to hire police officers and sergeants. We had 77 people take the written test in Calexico. Unfortunately, we only had 18 pass. So we're going to go out and advertise again, try to get some more people. So I might be able to get a few out of that group. I hope so. So I can hire people. I may have as many as 8 to 12 openings before I'm done. And I also am going to have anywhere from 4 to 7 sergeant openings. All my sergeants are gone except for 2. And we are really running thin. It's really hard to run a police department without sergeants. So we're recruiting them right now. We have a test coming up in June, and then we will hopefully be able to promote some sergeants very quickly and get that back up to speed. Port of entry, very intriguing. We sit over at the port of entry and take crime reports for everything that happened in the United States, all over the United States, for the port of entry. When immigrants are crossing the border and report a crime, and it happens anywhere in the United States, we take it. Well, why isn't the federal government paying for that officer to stand there all day long and take those reports? They should be, right? Common sense. So we're going to work on that. We're going to work on having the federal government have an officer there full-time and have them pay for it. By the way, back to the good part of the story with the school board, I can never think of her name. Maria, and she's the school board, what's her position called? Superintendent. She can't wait to help fund officers to come back in the schools. So as soon as we can get them, we're going to do that. It's common sense. I was the first captain in the LAPD to run the DARE division, Drug Abuse Resistance Education. My wife was one of the first DARE officers in the country back in 1986. So I know the impact that cops in the schools have on kids because my wife and I still talk to kids that aren't kids anymore, they're 30s, as a result of that relationship in the DARE program. So we're going to continue to do that. Community surveys. I'm going to do a community survey. I'm going to ask my officers after we get the body cameras and everything, because they asked to do it, to give you a card every time they have a contact with you. And I'm going to do the same. And I'm going to have you rate our service. Any questions or issues you had about the way we served you. Why would I do that? Every good business in America does that. Otherwise, how do you know how you're doing? Okay? I want to know how we're doing. I want to see us approve as a department. So you're going to see that survey probably coming up in a couple of months. I got to still meet with my union people and make sure they're comfortable that, there's always a worry that a chief's going to use that to abuse it, to get after people he wants to get after too, but that's not my heart. I want to hear from you, how you feel when the officers contact you. And what I think will happen as a result of both the body cameras and the survey, everything will go up. Service will go up, contacts will go up, they'll feel more comfortable talking to you, and we'll reconnect with the community. Wow, they just keep coming in. Too bad the city council doesn't care about you this much. Well, I don't want to say that. One's here. Maritza Hurtado's here, and she and John Moreno would do almost anything for the police department. So, okay, crime reporting, I already talked about that. Investigations, I already talked about that. Beat plan, this is working really good. I'm moving faster now. Night leadership. It's interesting. We have 2 lieutenants. We have a chief. And when I get up to staff, well, anywhere from 6 to 7 sergeants, but all we have on nights is sergeants. So I want to fix that. So I'm going to go to the city council and ask and get rid of an old commander position that we have and ask for another lieutenant. There needs to be a lieutenant working nights in this city for all of us. It's called leadership. The officers want it too. They don't want to just see us Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 5. And, In my younger days, I'd work 24 hours a day. I can't do that anymore. But I still like going out with the troops, but there needs to be people out there all the time in a leadership position for both the community and the officers to rely upon. Technology's future. Man, we are making dramatic headway on that. I've already talked about the cameras and the tasers, but I have something really exciting to tell you about. I'm going to go before the City Council next week on the 2nd, and hopefully we'll talk about city business and not just monkey business. And I've worked really hard since the moment I got here to put together a citywide video system and automated license plate reading system throughout the city. And I came from the world of technology. I've been in the technology world for almost 8 years with Raytheon and Nokia, so I know what's possible with technology. We have a very unique city. There's only about 7 major streets in and out of our city. If I put cameras and license plate readers on all those intersections and up and down the business district, no one's going to get away with the hit and run on this poor lady like we had over on 2nd Street the other day and drive off, and now we don't know who the suspect is. All those crimes are happening, and rarely do we get evidence. Well, if this system is built, those days are over, because that car is going to wander down the street. We're going to read the license plate. It's going to match the description on the car. We're going to get the suspects. So I'm really excited about the potential for that. Our city parks, Mr. Warren's working his tail off along with our city staff to clean up our parks. And the idiots are vandalizing it every night right after we get it done. So we're going to put cameras in the parks and start riding herd on all this stuff. The graffiti is everywhere. It's interesting, when I first talked to my officers, I said, tell me about the gang problem in Calexico. They said, there's no gangs in Calexico. So I wandered around and showed them all the gang tags. I didn't even know the names, but I knew they were gang tags. And guess where most of them were? All around City Hall and the police station. All over the place. Gang tags. So it's another learning experience, and we can start getting all these taggers around town that are destroying our community. So, is it cheap? No, it's going to cost $700,000 to build the system. But because we are very aggressive in the narcotics world, and we have officers on the narcotics task force, we have the money in the bank right now through asset forfeiture money to pay for that system. So all the city council excuses, there's no money, we can't do it, it's too expensive. I hope you're there to say, no, wrong, we have it. And it's up to the police department to do the right thing for the city, which is what I'm doing, and no longer spending it on toys for the police department and fancy cars and fancy guns. We're going to build something that serves you as a community, a video system and an automated license plate system. So I have the money in the bank for that. I'm a little short, but I know I have several $100,000 coming in the next month or two from some of our task forces, and we'll pay for it. So I'm really excited about that. Also, we have some money in the narcotics asset forfeiture money that allows me and the fire chief, who's my partner on this, I don't know if he's here tonight, but yeah, Pete's back there. And, you know, that money is supposed to go to police and fire operations, mostly police. But there's a budget in that for community youth programs. And so just last week, the city manager approved us spending some of our asset forfeiture meeting. And I'm going to go to the existing youth programs, and Pete and I are going to donate from the police and fire department 5 brand new electronic scoreboards for all the boys, girls, and men's softball and baseball leagues around the city. So we'll have a city park that's got some really good stuff. So as long as I'm here, I'm going to focus on helping youth programs that already exist, parks and recreation, and spending the money on the community, not on the officers' boondoggles and trips around the country to different conferences and funny things like that. We will do some of those, but we'll do much more professionally. Okay, I think I'm getting close, Richard, to your turn. So reorganization and recruitment, I've talked a little bit about this, so I'll go quickly. In 2008, the city destroyed the civilian workforce in the police department, completely just like wiped it out. Why, I don't know. I'd have to again talk to Newjar and find out why, but he's not here. He wiped out all the civilian positions and kept all the police officers. So it's completely destroyed all the internal record systems, the evidence systems. There's one evidence tech for the entire city. He can't go on vacation. He can't take a day off. One guy. He's the only one. It's nonsense. It's all got to be fixed. There's no one that's really managing the animal control shelter because my cops are busy doing police work all day long, or politics in the city. Seems to keep us busy most of the time now. Our dispatch system, there's nobody really managing that. So in addition to night leadership, I want to get a civilian leader, a civilian level middle manager in the department, and restaff some of our records clerks and our dispatchers so you get the service you deserve. Our records unit is like torture. In fact, they're right here. There's 2 of them back there. I see them. Raise your hands. Our records unit. And they work their tail off trying to keep up with all the volume of records there, and they can't because the city cut it back and never put it back together. So we're going to do that soon. I was trying to photobomb you. Okay, so that's it for me. I just wanted to give you an update on where the department is, and I want to tell you that the future that we have planned is really bright. I'm excited about all the departments. I got the Department of Justice coming in to help us with training. I got the LAPD, the LA County Sheriff's Department's going to help us. Oh, and I forgot to mention the sheriff. Is the sheriff still here? Where's the sheriff? Ray, come on, man. I'm going to call him Ray. I got to tell you about this sheriff. And I think Gilbert Ortero is here too. Isn't Gilbert here somewhere? I saw him come in. Oh, he's hiding in the back row. He's good at that. But I love pointing him out. So these guys have been my friends since the moment I got to Calexico. And the amount of support that I've gotten from them has been incredible. They're honestly the only reason I've lasted 7 months is because they've continually tried to talk sense into the city council and other people to do the right thing. And the sheriff in particular, I want to talk about 2 things that he did and his department did. And I've been in the policing business for a very long time, so I speak from experience, not just from saying thank you. His department took over a cover-up shooting investigation where our internal people tried to cover up an officer-involved shooting back last summer. They took a complete piece of garbage and did one of the most professional use of force investigations I've ever seen. And I used to handle use of force review board for the LAPD, so I know what good ones look like. So Sheriff, that was fantastic, and I know I've said it before, but when you have that kind of support, it means a lot. And then my evidence audit. I had nobody in my department to do an evidence audit because the evidence audit, the guy that's running the evidence unit can't audit himself. So the poor sheriff said, sure, Mike, we'll help you. Well, he didn't realize that nobody looked at my evidence room for 8 years when he said, okay, we'll help you. Maybe longer. So they spent almost 4.5 months in and out of my department trying to audit all the evidence that's come into the department. So that was a Herculean task. Mr. Godsey is his evidence room director, great guy, and his staff, and they did it on their time. And I'm really grateful, Sheriff, and I just want to say it publicly. It was fantastic to have you as a partner. I look forward to it for a very long time. Okay, now I'm going to be quiet and let Mr. Warren speak. And again, for those of you who just came in, for those, we'll get to the questions at the end. So the way this process is going to work, a lot of you came in late. So the first complaint was, oh my gosh, he's a Bible-thumping Christian, that's why he's having it in the church tonight. Wow, the duplicity of this town, it's amazing how many stories get told without facts. Never let the facts get in the way of a really good story. I can't keep up with all the stories. I don't have Facebook. I don't have time for it. But apparently in Calexico, a lot of you have a lot of time for Facebook. And my kids follow it. My wife follows it. My friends follow it. They're just like shaking their heads. And my youngest son, Alex, who was accused by one of the websites of being gay, somehow they thought that would somehow have an impact on me. Well, he's 6'7", 380, so I hope he doesn't run into whoever posted that one. He just said he's a brilliant kid. He's got a master's degree in philosophy, and he was great. He goes, Dad, you know what I don't understand? Is that like a junior high web page, or what the heck's going on there? He says, I've never seen anything like that, Dad. This is junior high. So that pretty well told the story. So what we're going to do is we have 3x5 cards over here, and the reason we came to the church tonight is not because I'm a Bible-thumping Christian. We came here because the church offered a long time ago, and look at the amount of people that showed up. Where would I find this kind of space? Not very many places. I could have done it at the college again, but I don't want to keep being a pain to everybody, and I want to move it around the city. And then, you know what? I thought, why not at a place of God? Why would the dark side fear that? You figure it out. Okay, so now we have 3x5 cards over there. Again, we will answer your questions. You don't have to put your name on it, but if you like to, you can. There was a bunch of people who went and told the media that I was just going to ignore the tough questions. Well, you know me by now. I don't ignore the tough questions. And Mr. Warren, I know, will do the same. Now, some I may take away from him and not let him answer for his own protection, but between the two of us, we'll be very honest with you about what's going on in the city of Calexico. So I want to honor this guy. You know, I've been in government for almost 40 years. I've never seen a more honorable man. I've never seen a more truthful man. I've never seen a man work harder for a city, and I've never seen a man with more integrity. So it's really sad that once again your city council is trying to drive out good people from the city of Calexico. I don't mind saying it out loud because they were saying it themselves tonight. And what I really hate most about it is the lies that they tell, and their council members. The complete lies that they tell about what Mr. Warren is demanding and what I'm demanding and everything. It's like, wow. One city councilman took me on tonight in the council meeting, accused me of having a business relationship with a guy on the JPA board. Okay, so here's the relationship. The guy on the JPA board, who I've never met in my life and still haven't, I just talked to him on the phone. My wife buys hay from him for her horse at a retail thing. So why do you think a council member would try to use that? He's trying to paint me as crooked as him. That's why he's trying to do that. That's called conscience. His conscience is going off, so he's trying to make me as crooked as him. Doesn't work in this world. People don't buy it. So my wife buys $12, maybe $50 worth of straw for the bottom of her horse trough. And she's driving by the hay barn on the way to pick up some stuff about a week after I got the job in Calexico. And she's there talking to the guy running the store. Yeah, my wife, my husband's crazy. He's gone to be the chief in Calexico, right? I don't know why he's doing that, but that's my husband. He's crazy, right? So a guy comes running out of the back, introduces himself as a member of the board of the JPA and says, well, you know, we're going to cancel their insurance. And my wife says, don't do that. My husband's a new chief. He's honest. He's going to clean the place up. So this guy calls me, and I said, please, don't cancel our city. I'm going to clean it up. That's the nefarious business relationship that one of your city council members is trying to paint. You just can't make up these stories, but they will in a heartbeat. So I lost it today. I had to take myself and throw myself out of the city council meeting because I was acting unprofessionally. So I escorted myself out of the meeting. It was kind of fun. Anyway, so Mr. Warren, you need to chastise me later for that.
Well, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedules to come down here and visit with us and have a dialogue with us and discuss with us the things that have been happening in the city of Calexico, where we are today, and where we're going as it relates to many of the outstanding issues. And I also want to make this part of a report on my stewardship. You see, I believe that the police chief and myself, we're your servants. We're here to serve you. And I just want you to know that the police chief and I and Nick Servine and John Quinn, we take very seriously the whole concept of public service and recognize that we work for you and are here to serve you. And we have no other agenda. We have no other agenda than to provide effective, efficient, transparent city government to each one of you. We truly care about the city of Calexico. So let me just begin. Let's see. Oops, I'm trying to try to get going here. Okay, here we go. I've been here 11 months now. I got here on July 1, 2014 on a 6-month contract as interim city manager. Oscar Rodriguez had left the city at the time, and some of you know me, but I have 33 years in local government. I have a degree in public administration, and before starting my career as a city manager, I was in the U.S. Army. I was a paratrooper. I jumped out of perfectly good airplanes and enjoyed that experience. Rose to the rank of captain during the time I was in the military. And you may not believe this, but in addition to being a city manager, I have been a city council member. Yes, that's right. I've been a city council member, and I was elected twice. That's pretty scary. So I do understand city government. I understand city government from the elected officials' point of view and also from the administrative point of view. I also speak Spanish. I served as a missionary for my church in Nicaragua and Honduras, Costa Rica and Panama when I was 20 years old. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to practice my Spanish and to enjoy the culture that exists here in Calexico. So, what happened back in July? You know, when they hire interim city managers, for a lot of them, you know, it's a pretty good job. What they do is they sit back, they warm a chair, they collect a check, don't really do anything. But this is what I told the Calexico City Council. That I would be different. I would be different than any other interim city manager that they ever had. And I've kept that promise. I told them I would complete their projects, achieve their goals and objectives, and I would not be afraid to tackle the very difficult, complex issues that face the city. I was not going to sit back and be an observer when there were difficult and complex issues that needed addressing in the city of Calexico. And let's all recognize where we are today. Calexico city government needs to be reformed and transformed, and we have begun that process. And we are continuing that process and hope to be able to move forward in the future with that process. And you know, you as the people want change. You know that while that perhaps things need to have change. If I were to talk to you, you'll talk about problems that were in the police department or some other department, but the people want change, and that's why you voted for who you voted for in the last election. You voted for Councilmember Hurtado, you know, because she represented change and transformation and reform. You also voted for Councilmember Real, who said he wanted change, but the reality is he really doesn't. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. It's more of the same with him. So, we've made numerous changes, and we've made it despite a very difficult political environment. You have a divided city council. You have Kim and Castro on one side, the mayor and Councilmember Hurtado on the other side, and then Councilmember Real. And the environment, I've never seen anything like it in my 33 years in terms of what takes place on the city council. And those of you who have been to the meetings know what I'm talking about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover about 8 issues here. I'm going to talk about the police department just briefly. The chief's talked about that. I'm going to talk about the city attorney, overtime abuse, park maintenance, city maintenance, technology, administration, and city insurance issues. When I arrived on July 1, 2014, it took me about 2 weeks to figure out that we had very, very serious leadership, management, organizational, and employee misconduct issues in the police department. Now, I've been doing this 33 years. I've had my own police departments, and I've also managed cities that had contracted out with the sheriff's department, so I'm familiar with the delivery of law enforcement services, and it became apparent to me early on that we had serious problems. And we had a number of complaints, and there was a couple of ongoing investigations, and based on the information that came to me, we initiated more investigations. We hired independent investigators to investigate what was taking place in the police department. Finally, on October 13, 2015, I fired Chief Tabares. 14. Did I say 15? It should be 14. I fired Chief Tabares. We really needed to have change. And I hired Michael J. Bostic, former deputy chief for the Los Angeles Police Department. And those of you who know Chief Bostic know he's done an outstanding job. He's competent technically, but also he's an excellent leader. And you know what thing about Chief Bostic? He's an individual that has a track record of transformation and reform. And that's what we need in the police department. Somebody who had the skills to be able to transform organizations. And not everybody can do that. And Chief Bostic has done an outstanding job for us. Now, once Chief Bostic got here, he and I worked on with the FBI, and we had the FBI raid on October 30th. And as a result of that, we had 35 agents around the city. They carted off your computer hard drives, files. They interviewed every officer. And by the way, these FBI investigations are still ongoing. So anybody who says that, gee, we haven't seen an arrest yet, or, gee, there's nothing happening, well, they're wrong. So anyway, and the police chiefs talk about the police department, so I'm not going to talk anything more about it. I'm going to talk about the city attorney. Okay, and what happened here? The law only permits full-time public employees to be part of the California Public Employees Retirement System. You have to be a full-time public employee. And our city attorney was a member of CalPERS since 2007. She was in no way a public employee. She was a partner in a law firm. And not only that, was not only the city attorney in Calexico, but also the city attorney in Imperial Beach. And she was also the general counsel for the San Diego Rural Fire Protection District and the Chula Vista Personnel Board. She didn't have an office at the city. There was no way in the world that she was a full-time employee. So what I did is I hired an investigator. This is wrong. And as a result, I hired a law firm. They investigated. They said that she's violating the law. And we submitted the appropriate request to CalPERS to have it reviewed. And CalPERS said, you know what, city, you're right. She's ineligible to be in CalPERS. And they removed her from CalPERS. Now, as a result of that, the city's going to receive a refund of $50,390 for all the contributions that the city made on her behalf prior to her being removed from the CalPERS system. Many of the city's problems can be traced to poor legal advice during the last 10 years. We've had mismanagement, we've had corruption, we've had cronyism, we've had wrongdoing, we've had criminal activity. And one of the common denominator is that law firm. And in many cases, the city attorney did not take action. And this latest lawsuit that they filed against me, that was done by the same law firm. And the court ruled in my favor that I had done nothing wrong. But you know what? The only way that a lawsuit can be filed on behalf of the city is for the city council to meet in a regular meeting, closed session, and authorize the lawsuit. One council member, two council members, three council members on their own cannot authorize the city attorney to file a lawsuit. And it violates their code of ethics to file a lawsuit without authorization from the client. So there are serious problems there. So let's talk about overtime. In fiscal year 2013-2014, they had and this is prior to my arrival, this is prior to Chief Bostic's arrival, but she had a budget of $450,000. The actual overtime that was spent was $1,427,728 in all accounting funds. And so the overtime, they overspent their budget by $977,728. This is where they talk about $1 million being spent in overtime that was not budgeted. So where are we today as a result of Chief Bostic's leadership and the changes he's made in the organization? Well, once again, the budget's the same size, $450,000. Well, guess what? Year to date, we've spent $439,000. Chief Bostic's in budget. So let's give Chief Bostic a hand. He's done an excellent job, and I appreciate what he's done to solve this overtime problem. Let's talk about the water plant. That's quite unique. Most of you if you work 2 weeks, you work 80 hours, don't you? Okay, you've worked 40 hours a week, and if you work 2 weeks, you work 80 hours, and that's how you get paid. Well, our water people, they were working 87 hours over a 2-week period. And they had set it up so that they worked 12-hour shifts, but they would work 1 week on, 1 week off. So by working all your time in 1 week, guess what that does to overtime? That's right. They spent so on an 87-hour work week, which would be normal for most people, or 80 hours, they were getting 32 hours of overtime without really working more than the 7 hours. So what John Quinn and I did is we figured out that if we changed the payroll period from beginning on Wednesday to beginning on Monday, it wiped out 24 hours of overtime per employee each pay period without changing their work schedule and without changing their payday. So by just making that one administrative change, we are saving the taxpayers of Calexico on $41,129 a year. All we did was move the beginning of the pay period from Wednesday to Monday. Park maintenance, huge issue. The first day I got here, I was taking on a tour of the parks, and everybody said, man, we got to do something about this. So one of the things that we did was we increased funding for park maintenance in the fiscal year 2013-2014 budget. The year before I got there, the budget was $394,084. The budget that I did with Mr. Quinn shortly after I got here, we increased the amount of park maintenance funds to $550,939 in the general fund, and then we gave an infusion of Measure H money of $536,000. So we're putting more resources into the parks. One of the interesting things, and if you look at that second bullet, they were going around and turning on all the sprinkler systems by hand. Okay? So one of the changes that has happened, we've automated all the parks so that now the sprinklers come on. We don't have to have an employee go and turn on the sprinkler systems and turn them off. We transferred 2 shop employees to parks, and the city took over park maintenance from a private contractor. The city was spending $17,880 a month paying this private contractor who was supposed to be maintaining the parks. Okay? Anybody here happy with how that went the last couple of years? And interestingly enough, that was costing us $214,560 a year. So I asked the question, how many people does he have out there maintaining the parks? He had 2. 2 people. No wonder they look so bad. So what we did was we took it over, and we got some part-time employees from the Hunter Employee Agency. And now we have organized ourselves so we have 2 mowing crews of 5 people and a trimming and sprinkler crew of 2 people. So we've gone from 2 people maintaining the parks to 7 people maintaining the parks, and we're saving the taxpayers of Calexico $33,000 a year. So I know the parks aren't where they ought to be. I'm the first one to say that we have a lot of work to do, but we're on the mend and we're putting resources into it. One of the other things that we've done is we've established a 2-color scheme for parks to help control graffiti. So there's going to be only 2 colors in the park. There's going to be the beige and the green, and we've already started painting everything. And that's so if we have any graffiti, one of our workers just goes down and either takes the beige or the green, and it's done. So we don't have multiple colors that we're trying to match and what have you. Let's talk about city maintenance. We've repaired 86 street lights. You know, I'd get up early in the morning at 4 o'clock, drive around town. It's a good thing that the police weren't following me. They probably think I was doing something. But anyway, we got 86 street lights. Whoops. I got to go backwards, don't I? No, I got it wrong. Oh. Great. Hey, I successfully She just said I'm fired. You know, sorry about that. Okay. Another thing we're doing is repairing and painting the fire hydrants. I don't know if you've driven around. Have you noticed fire hydrants don't have the caps on them? We're in the process of putting the caps on them, repairing them, and painting them. And we also took over the downtown maintenance from the private contractor. He was charging us $43,444 per year for one person. The city can put a person downtown to clean up for $27,331, and we've actually increased our personnel down there from one person to 2 people. So, and we've transferred one of the shop employees to full-time graffiti removal. Now, we used to have 3 people in the shop. But the interesting thing is most of our departments were still taking their vehicles to be contracted out to private vendors. So we said, you know what, a better use of those resources to move those employees out of the shop into the parks where we really need to have issues addressed. Let's talk about some of the technology. We have implemented automatic and online bill pay. So in your jammies at 2 o'clock in the morning, if you want to pay your water bill, you can do that online, or you can set it up so it'll just come out of your account. We've also installed bar scanners and automatic credit card readers. So when the people come to the window or you send in your bill, rather than type in the account number, they just scan it, and it automatically picks up the right account. There's not a problem with getting the wrong account or anything like that. We've installed new computer program for business licenses, and we're installing new financial and accounting software, which is going to give us far better financial information. That will be fully implemented on July 1. We are in the process of installing automated radio reading meter system. Right now, the way a meter gets read in Calexico, you have a meter reader go out and he either reads the meter or touches the pad, and they go from place to place. We are installing an automatic meter reading system where we will install a meter that has an antenna in it and a battery. And once every hour, that meter will transmit to the water department your meter reading. And then once a month, when they send out the bills, they'll press a button, the bill will be calculated, and the bill will be sent to you. No more individual meter readers, no more they mark it down wrong or anything like that. And by the way, if you want to come in and see when you're using your water, or if you think you have a leak or something, you just come down to City Hall. It'll give you a reading every hour. The technology will also allow us is if you have a leak at your house, it will tell the water department that you have a leak. And somebody from the city will go out, knock on your door, and say, hey, Mrs. Jones, it looks like you have a leak at your house. And so we're not only going to provide better customer service, but we're also going to be smarter about how we do stuff. Parking permits and parking meter payments are now online with your smartphone. If you go downtown, you don't have to have a quarter. You can just take out your smartphone and pay for your parking. Or if you're getting a parking permit, you can do it on your smartphone. Don't have to go to City Hall. And the application will even tell you when your parking meter is about to expire. So 15 minutes before, it'll send you a little message, hey, your parking meter is about to expire. So you can either add money or go move your car or do whatever you want, just right there. So if you're busy, you can just add money to your parking. And then also, we've started doing parking citations with the handheld devices. They're like smartphones. We no longer actually write out a parking ticket, but rather it's all automated. They take a picture of the car, They then, the license plate and the VIN number is put in, and the citation is issued. It's put on the windshield, and then it's automatically sent to a central location, and a letter is sent to the people saying, hey, you know, you owe some money for your parking. And by the way, if you don't pay your parking ticket, it automatically notifies the Department of Motor Vehicles. So everybody has to pay their parking. So let's talk about some of the things we've done in administration. Well, first of all, we've ended nepotism in hiring and other personnel actions. I was amazed when I got here, the Hunter Employment Agency people that the city were hiring, everybody was related to everybody. We had husbands, wives, mistresses. I mean, it was quite a thing. And so one of the first things I did was like the second day, that's coming to an end. We're only going to hire people based on merit, and we're not hiring any relatives. I put it out to all the department heads, and I told the city council, we will not hire another relative of a city employee. We're not going to do it. So, of course, on the third day, I get tested. City council member comes to me and wants to hire one of their children. I said, sorry. You know, we have new policy in place. We don't hire relatives, and we certainly aren't going to hire a family member of a city council member. And then one of my department heads decided that he was going to hire his daughter's husband. So he started working for us, and I found out, and so he worked for us one whole day because I said, no relatives. We're simply not going to do relatives. Everything's going to be based on merit. We are installing biometric time clocks. So when somebody punches in, they have to put their fingerprint. So what that prevents is somebody punching in for somebody. I mean, not that that would ever happen. Or punching out for somebody. If you're not there and you don't put your finger on it, then you won't punch in. And when you do it, it automatically sends the information to payroll. There's no more paper time cards. And I'm putting out the edict. We're just getting this going. Everybody's going to punch in, including the city manager. I'm going to punch in. Everybody punches in, so we have accountability of where people are. We brought city utility shutoff procedures in compliance with state law. We were out of compliance. We brought the city's system into compliance with state law. And we ended selective business license and utility shutoff enforcement. Political pressure had been put on some of our employees that certain people you just didn't shut off. It's not their fault. I mean, it's not the employee's fault. I mean, I have the highest regard for the people that work there. But we said, we're not doing that anymore. And we're going to have 100% shutoffs. So if you haven't paid your bill, you're going to be on the shutoff list. It doesn't matter who you are. So the first month we did it, we had several city employees on it. They got shut off. So we do 100% shutoff. So now with our new system, state law requires that everybody get 2 notices before you shut off their water. That's state law, which we weren't doing. So the first month that we did this, that we said we're going to have 100% shut off and everybody's going to be treated equally, we sent out, out of 8,200 accounts, we sent out 1,500 shut-off notices. You know. Now, and we actually shut off 756 people the first month. Okay? Now, we've been doing it about, we've been doing it about 4 or 5 months now. And so last month, guess how many shut-off notices we sent out? A little over 300. And we actually only shut off 237 people. So we've gone from every month shutting off 756 to shutting off 237. So let's talk about insurance. Okay? Prior to 1982, cities got their insurance from private commercial insurance carriers. Okay? And I remember those days, believe it or not. I was a 29-year-old city manager. just out of the Army. And what ended up happening is there were about 4 or 5 companies that used to insure all the cities in the country. Didn't matter whether you're in California, Vermont, or Virginia, they insured you. And I remember this well. They called up on a Friday and said, as of Monday, no insurance. No warning. We're out of here. We have too many losses. And they canceled everybody across the country. I was in Utah at the time, and they canceled every municipality, every county, every city in Utah. Everybody. Boom. No insurance. Due to heavy losses. So the cities got together and they formed these joint powers insurance authorities. Okay, they're basically government entities made up of its members, and they're insurance companies, but they're public entities. And we belong to the California Joint Powers Insurance Authority. And there's 116 cities in JPIA. Now, there are about 478 cities in California, so they have about 20%, somewhere in there, of all the cities in California. And so back in September of 2013, the JPIA put the city on a performance improvement plan. And this is before I arrived here. And the reason they did this was due to high losses and the failure to implement risk management programs and the behavior of the city council. They would watch the meetings. And as a result, they put the city on a performance improvement program. Now, so when I got here in July, that should be July of 2014, I was only here about 2 days, and I get a call. Ring. This is John Schull from the JPIA. We provide your liability and workers' compensation insurance. And I said, oh, okay, well, I'm just brand new here, only been here a couple of days. He said, great. We're going to invite your city council and you to a meeting with our executive committee to cancel your insurance. You haven't implemented the joint powers risk management programs, and your governance is dysfunctional, and you don't have stability in your department heads and city manager. I'd only been there 3 days, and I said to John Schull, I said, hey, give me a chance, John. I'll work with you. We'll turn this thing around. So he said, okay. So he moves the meeting to September. And when September came, I gave him a report on what we were doing. And then so he moves the meeting to after November, after the election. And so when the election happened, there was a hope that things would be better. And so what ended up happening was they decided at that time in November 2014 to extend the deadline for completion of the performance improvement plan by 12 months. In other words, you guys are doing good. We're not going to cancel you. We're just going to move forward. Okay? Let me tell you what JPIA's concerns are. There are 4. And if you were to call John Schull or anybody there, they'll tell you. City council behavior. We have a divided city council. It's dysfunctional. And they want an end to the chaos and dysfunctional behavior. That's what JPIA wants. They want an end to it. They want stability in the city manager and department head positions. They want no interference in administrative operation, especially in personnel issues, and they want implementation of risk management programs. Now, why do they want this? Because if you have dysfunctional behaviors at the elected official level, you have constant turnover in your city managers. And by the way, don't call me Richard, call me number 26, because I'm the 26th city manager in 35 years. So if you call me 26, I'll answer to that. And they don't want, when elected officials interfere in administrative operations, of course, and you don't implement the risk management programs, you're more likely to have losses, claims and lawsuits. And Calexico has had huge losses in the past. That's their concerns. So on April 27th, because what was happening, they were watching what was taking place at the city council level, and by the way, things have not gotten better since the election. You know, it's actually gotten worse. And those of you, and I'm not pointing at anybody, but it is worse. And the other part of it was the contract negotiations, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, because there's been a lot of misinformation about that. And so they wrote in their April 27th letter, it says, as you may be aware, the authority's executive committee recently extended, this is their letter, the completion of the performance improvement plan by 12 months. This extension was based upon the belief that Mr. Warren and Mr. Bostic would continue their roles within the organization. Any change to the employment status of the city manager or police chief may jeopardize the city's ongoing liability and worker compensation coverage. So on May 5th, because of what happened in the regular meeting and because of the fact that we don't have agreements, permanent agreements, JPIA said, we warned you. And so now they met on May 11th and issued notice of cancellation. So it's effective July 1, 2015. Now, what I did was I filed an appeal. There was a provision where you could file a 14-day appeal, so I filed an appeal. And I filed that on May 22nd of the Executive Committee's decision. So that's kind of where we are. So there's been a lot of misinformation about the contract negotiations. So let me just, it's not about the money. Okay? John Quinn, Chief Bostic, and I, we're saving the city a combined $1.8 million a year from cost savings we achieved. But also, there was an agreement with the city council on my salary, and it's not what you've been reading on Facebook, the severance, and the benefits, which is Oscar's benefits, by the way, same as Oscar Rodriguez had. And on the May 5th meeting, the whole issue of this, whether it takes 3 votes to remove the city manager or 4. And up to now, all the negotiations were 4. It was going to take 4, and right in the meeting, Councilmember Real changed his mind and says, I want it to have 3. Well, that causes a concern to me because you got this divided council, 2 on this side, 2 on this side, and all it would take is Councilmember Real to get up one morning and decide he doesn't like me, and then, you know, I'm done. If you had takes 4 votes to remove the city council member, you would at least have to get, remove the city manager, you would at least have to get a buy-in from both factions of the city council, okay? And by the way, Oscar Rodriguez had that. Oscar Rodriguez had the 4 votes. But now, one of the problems has been on these negotiations is every time we agree to something, we agree to a contract provision or an item, next time we meet, there's no agreement. And so it's really been frustrating for myself because, hey, wait a minute, I thought we had an agreement on this. Then we don't have an agreement on it the next time you talk to them, and that's what's been happening. So I'm just going to be straight up about this. Last night, I went and had dinner with Councilmember Real. I said, let's get this done. Let's finish. So we went through it. We agreed on the salary, the severance. I told him, I said, look, I'm not going to drive the city off the cliff. I'll agree to the 3-1. I said, if that's the deal killer, I'll agree to the 3-1. I said, I don't think it's in my interest, but I'm not going to have our insurance canceled. I'm not going to be the one. If somebody else wants to cancel it, they can do it, but I'm giving on that one. And the benefits are Oscar's. So after 4 hours, I shake hands with Councilmember Real. We have a deal. We have a deal. So I say, okay, now your attorney says the contract, I've got a draft contract. Your attorney for all this time has said, there's no problem with the contract. I want you to read it over. one more time, and sure enough, once again, you think you have a deal, you never have a deal. So what he said was, well, I want to sleep on it tonight. There were two items, and that's been my concern because there's never a deal. There's always another thing that they want. And so he came in half an hour before the special city council meeting, and he completely changed what we had agreed to. It was completely different half an hour before the meeting. And so I told him, I said, look, we shook hands. You agreed to this. No. So the reason I'm telling you this, folks, is the problem is you can never get an agreement because people never go negotiate in good faith. And when they agree to something, next time you talk to them, they don't agree to it. So I'm just telling you what happened, and he'll probably tell you it's all about the money, and maybe I didn't put something on the agenda he wanted or something like that. But so anyway, that's what happens. We don't get to it. There's no agreement because we can't get there. You can't get there even when you shake hands and you say, we agree. The next day, it wasn't even just a couple of small things. It was huge. It was like starting all over again. And so that's where we are. Oh, you want to say something, Chief?
Giving him the hook. No. So I'm going to give him the chance to look at his questions, and then I'm going to start answering a few, and then we'll get back to some things. So if you have questions, keep them coming. So bring them up to us, and we'll keep covering them. So I'm really glad that the supervisor, would you please stand up for a minute, Mr. Renison? I'm really glad he stayed here tonight. So way back in November, my first couple of weeks here, I made an accusation that the supervisor was involved with my 3 city council members in collusion with a crime victim to use them to get me fired. I made a mistake. The victim that told me that was not being truthful. He was playing his own little con game on me. So Mr. Renison, I apologize to him, and I did this a few weeks back, but I want to do it publicly because I told you I'd always be honest. He was not involved in that conspiracy, but the other 3 city councilmen at the time were. Hodge, Castro, and Kim. They were using a victim in a kidnapping, along with Duran and Tabaris, the chief at the time, trying to turn him into saying that I wasn't investigating his kidnapping case and using that for a reason to fire me. So when I went after that, the victim at the time was not truthful with me and told me that Mr. Renison was involved in that. I now know he wasn't. So I'm publicly apologizing to him, and I'm really sorry that I did that. Accept your apology, and I appreciate that very much. Thank you. I told you I would always be honest, so when I make a mistake, I made one. Honest or otherwise, it doesn't matter. I made a mistake, and he was not involved in that at all, but the other 3 council members were the first 2 weeks I was here. Okay, this is another really interesting question. Why are you asking for $380,000 in salary? Holy mackerel. That'd be like the hoodwink of the year to pull that one off. So where this comes from is there's this website. It's called the Blue Whiners or something. I don't know. I don't have a Facebook page, so I don't. What is it? Blue Shame? I don't know. Whatever it's called. So they started out by saying, oh my God, he wants $250,000. That's ridiculous. So then I went to the Imperial Valley News and I explained what I wanted, okay? I told the truth. Stood right up, gave him the whole story, and it goes like this. The previous chief was making $200,000 plus a year, and they disguised it this way. The dirty little secret about those of us in public service is there's a salary, and then there's a whole benefit package that's about 75% more of that salary. So let's say, for instance, I'm making $150,000 a year working in the city of Calexico. I'm actually probably making closer to $225,000 because of all the overhead for pensions, for medical, for workers' compensation, for all those things. Dirty little secret. So what I was asking for was a little bit more than the previous chief who created all this corruption that I came in to clean up, than he was making to come in and do it. Why was I asking more? I was asking more because I have two homes. I have to run a home here, and I still have my home in Long Beach. I can't sell my home in Long Beach because, like everybody else, my house isn't worth what it was 8 years ago. So I'm waiting for that to come back before I can sell it. So there's the dirty little lie. So when they tried pushing that lie for many months, they just kept upping the amount they said I wanted. So here's the real part of the lie. Not once has any member of the city council, the city staff, anybody ever asked me what I want. What actually happened is on around December the 6th, just before Christmas, the pretend city attorney that we had for 10 years, Mr. Steve Beamer, came in and talked to the city manager, John Quinn, and myself, all together now, by the way. We're all in one room together, and came in with this proposed deal and told each and every one of us what the council was offering us in salary and benefits. So you get this picture in front of my boss. They're telling me how much they're offering him. In front of John Quinn, they're telling me how much they're offering me, and they're telling Mr. Quinn how much they'll offer him. So the city attorney, who's responsible for upholding the law, violated every part of the city charter in doing that. The city council has no right to negotiate with me or Quinn. That's up to the city manager. But that's the legal advice your city has gotten forever. Very poor legal advice, and that's why we're in half of the predicaments we're in. So I told the city attorney at that time, and I quote, "I'm the chief law enforcement officer of the city of Calexico. I am not going to violate the law, and I'm not going to let you, so this meeting is over. When the city manager comes to negotiate our contracts with him, I'd be glad to negotiate, but I'm not negotiating with you because this is an illegal meeting." So guess what? He canceled the meeting. There's never been a meeting again. No one in this city has ever asked me how much I want. So how much do I want? A little bit more than the previous chief made, who was totally unqualified, a former sergeant on the sheriff's department, with no executive training, nothing, as compared to me that spent 34 years of my life with 27 years of formal educations and 2 master's degrees, and I'm asking for a little bit more money. Shame on me. Really, shame on me. That's the truth of the picture that they're lying about. And one city council member, Mandy Real, goes around lying to everyone at every opportunity and upping the amount, trying to get your attention about what I want. And the truth is he's never asked, not once. And he was on the negotiation team. Never once had a conversation with me about it. Okay, that one out of the way. So no, I don't want $380,000, but that's where that comes from. Good question. I'm glad you're willing to ask those. How has the turmoil of the city council affected your department? Well, right now my department's paralyzed, as is the rest of the city, because they all know their days are numbered. City council doesn't take it seriously. They don't care. They're not interested. When I say city council, I'm talking about 3. Moreno and Maritza are doing everything they can to try to do the right thing for the city, but the other 3 don't really care. So the turmoil that creates is, how can people work when they're wondering if they should go apply for another job? I lost a dispatcher last week who went and found another job. I have at least 5 or 6 police officers I know who are getting ready to leave and go apply for other jobs. And in the midst of all of this, I spend all day long dealing with the political turmoil and drama and people wanting to be drama queens and in the media and everything. Do you think I'm running the police department all day? No, because I have to deal with all the political drama constantly. I have to go babysit the city council meetings. Today I had to throw myself out. So, I spend an awful lot of time just wasted. And my officers and my employees, Martha's one of them, they're scared to death for their future and their families. There's a lot of them here tonight, families of my officers and civilian employees, because they're scared to death. And 3 city council members don't care. Honestly, they just don't care. It's not on the radar screen. They don't care about you. They don't care about the city. Okay. Is it really true that they were stealing overtime? Okay, I have to choose my words carefully because these are ongoing investigations. Let's just say there's probably $2 million worth of overtime in the last 2 years that was taken by employees that they were not entitled to, and they're telling the world it's clerical errors. Does anybody believe that $2 million of overtime is clerical errors? I think you're much smarter than that. So I'll just leave it at that. And the reason they throw these things out about the investigations is because they know I can't talk about them. And the reasons they throw out, how come the FBI hasn't arrested anybody? Because they know we can't talk about it. It's all part of this little slander game and this coercion game. And you remember I talked about the mafia tactics? Those are mafia tactics. Threaten, slander, make things up, try to destroy people's reputation. So they're still doing it even though they're no longer employees. Okay. Okay, somebody's got to help me. This one's in Spanish. Who can you interpret this for me? No? Spanish. I don't know.
In Spanish. How the cancellation of the insurance of the city impact the community?
Okay, I'm going to let Mr. Warren, when he gets a chance to answer that one, answer it, and then I'll finish up these last couple. Okay. Why did the city hire an attorney from the same firm from which the prior lawyer was fired? The city did not hire that attorney. 3 city council members on their own went and got that city attorney to do it on their own. And yes, the city will get billed for that. That was one of his last couple days. How do you feel about your officers being recorded and photographed and taped while they're doing their duties? Honestly, I feel good about it. And why I feel good about it? Because I know I have good people. I'm not worried about it. And I believe my officers feel the same way. They've been accused of so many things for so long, and I didn't help matters any when I got here, that they want the opportunity for the truth to be told. There's nothing better than a video and an audio tape at scenes. And frankly, when I got here, many officers already had their own. So we're only actually providing the equipment that was already, that a lot of them already had, and we're going to provide it for them. And then I can professionally defend my officers when people make frivolous personnel complaints or when people say they were falsely arrested. It's kind of sobering for somebody when they come in and say I was arrested for no reason, and then you show them the tape. Kind of solves things pretty quickly. So, yeah, you don't feel the best about it, but the fact that my officers wanted it, and I want it, and I think you do too, then we all know the truth through all these incidents, and I don't have to spend all this money on investigations. This person also had another question. So why is the city council trying to limit the city manager's spending authority? I'm going to answer this question because he can't. They'll use it against him. We're conducting a series of criminal investigations into the department, and we've had to hire outside consultants who are professional investigators, former FBI agents, former sheriff's detectives, people like that, to come in and investigate all this criminal activity. That's why they're trying to cut the spending authority. They want to stop the criminal investigations. And you can figure out why they don't want us to continue in the criminal investigations. You're pretty smart people. Does the city council have to vote unanimously to permanently hire the chief and city manager? No. It'll end up being a 3-2 vote no matter how it goes. So it's one way or the other, 3-2 vote. Okay, we're running out of time, so I'm going to let Mr. Warren come up and answer his questions. I think a lot of them are the same.
We have a few of them the same, but we have some different ones. Let's go with a different one. Will lights eventually be added to the soccer softball park on 5th and Andrade? Kids are playing in the dark. I have good news for you there. We are working with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. They've agreed to pay all the labor to install lights at that field. We've also been working with IID. They are willing to set poles. And so the only thing the city has to do is buy the lights. So we're in the process now of bidding out and purchasing the lights. Once they come in, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers at no cost to Calexico will install the lights, and IID will make the connections. So that's where we are. It's one of those positive things. I'd like to thank Mrs. Estrada. Mrs. Estrada, I don't know if she's here. She's heavily involved in making that happen. Nick Servine, our city engineer, Nick Finley, IID, the people have been great over there. So anyway, that's what's happening there. The cost of the lights, just the materials, is about $80,000. And that will come out of Measure H money. So that's how that will happen, okay? All right. Once and for all, what is the difference between the previous city manager's salary and what is the current city manager asking? Okay, I'm just going to tell you. All right, Oscar Rodriguez made according to the finance department, $186,750. Okay? The number that had been agreed to by the city council and myself was $199,000. So that's the difference. The benefit package is exactly the same as Oscar Rodriguez, except 2 exceptions. And these are actually less. Oscar Rodriguez got 22 vacation days a year. You know, I think that's too much. I think people ought to be at work, so I'm only asking 15. And the other is on admin leave, administrative leave. Oscar Rodriguez had 80 hours annually of admin leave. I'm just taking what every other management employee of the city, it's 64 hours. So, anyway. Okay. What's going to happen about the insurance? I just got to tell you, we're in uncharted territory, folks. I'm not sure what is going to happen. In the city of Maywood, they laid off a number of employees, contracted out their services. And so they basically shut down operations. Now, I'm not sure we would have to do that. One thing I do know that by law, you can't operate unless you have workers' comp insurance. And so we'll have to have workers' comp insurance. If, in fact, JPIA cancels us, we'll have to have other workers' comp insurance in place by July 1. Because by law, you have to have workers' comp in order to operate. What we'll be able to find on the commercial market, I'm not really sure. John Quinn, our finance director, is starting to work on that. And so, you know, we'll try to come up with some alternatives. But the fact of the matter is, we've solved the problem. Last July, we solved the problem by providing effective leadership. JPIA says, look, if you sign agreements with Richard and Michael Bostic, then we will rescind the notice of cancellation. Now, it's not because Mr. Bostic and I are the only people that potentially could be an effective city manager for you or a police chief. The problem is because you go through so many city managers and because it's so dysfunctional and the work environment is so difficult, to find somebody, and they all have families, that has high levels of skills are just simply not going to apply. Because what ends up happening is people watch the videos before they interview. So JPIA doesn't think you'll be able to find somebody with our background. So anyway, all right, moving right along here. So the short answer is I don't want to say something that's not going to be true on this insurance thing. Because quite frankly, I'm not really sure at this point. Now, as we get closer and we see if there's any other options for insurance or something, then we're going to have a better idea. But we're just telling you that no city that I'm aware of except Maywood actually has decided to do what's happening here. All right, this is another liability insurance question, same. What happens if they cancel liability insurance? Oh, is there a chance of possibility of being a hospital built in Calexico again? I don't know the answer to that. Some of you who've been here longer may know. I'm kind of thinking that probably since there's 2 hospitals in El Centro, that maybe that wouldn't be something that they would do, but I don't know. That's why our advanced life support programs and activities from our fire department, they do an excellent job, by the way, are so important because since we don't have a hospital, they're really become our mobile hospital when you really get down to it. So they really do a good job. That one's for a council member. Okay, will the city council members that initiated the legal action last week be responsible for the legal expenses, since it was not the consensus of the city council? Okay, the lawsuit that was filed against me violated the Brown Act and, quite frankly, is illegal because the only way that litigation can be initiated is if the majority of city council members at a regularly scheduled meeting get together and vote to initiate litigation. 1 council member, 2 council members, 3 council members cannot get on the phone and say, hey, city attorney, go down and file a lawsuit. So number one is that lawsuit was not authorized by the city council and therefore illegal. Number two, 3 council members would have had to tell the attorney to file the lawsuit, or he would have had to do it on his own, which I seriously doubt. So that's the problem there. Now, I'm not going to pay the bill of that attorney because he didn't have authorization to file that lawsuit. So when that bill comes through, he's not going to get paid. So, as far as defending me, in my capacity as city manager, I, in that case, was the city. So therefore, the city defended itself, defended me in the action that I took. And by the way, the judge ruled in my favor on that one. So. When will lights be added to the park on Sapphire and Rodriguez Park? I really don't know the answer to that. We're going to have to look at that. Why don't you create a page to keep the people and citizens updated on issues and concerns? One of the things we're in the process of doing is really redoing the whole website, and we're looking at the whole social media thing. But and we have purchased software, and we're in the process of setting that up. How can we support the progress in the city? Come to the meetings, be involved, talk to your council members, call us on the phone. We're happy to be of service at any time. Okay, here's another same question on insurance. How does the lawsuit affect the city taxpayers and the city's funds? Aren't we supposed to deter corruption? How much is it costing? I'm assuming that's the last lawsuit that was filed against us at the city. I'm not sure what that cost was. What ended up happening is I got served at 11 o'clock and had to be in court at 8:30 the next day. And so we did retain somebody, and I'm not sure what all that costs. Okay, ¿en qué manera impacta la población de Aseguro? Okay, this is the insurance question. It's in Spanish. I think I've already answered that question. So, okay, that's all the questions. Do you have some more there, Chief, that you got?
And I have another one.
So this one's from a concerned citizen. I'll just read it to you. Thank you for your patience with the community. Please stress that the community needs to be involved in the seriousness of the consequences of losing control of Calexico. So what I'll tell you is this is not over. Next Tuesday night, they'll have another council meeting, and they'll begin again. They're going to try to fire Warren, and then me, and then Nick Servine, and then John Quinn. And again, we're trying to live in the light. They want to live in the dark. You're pretty smart people. So I know you get tired of coming to these meetings. And you notice none of them is here tonight because they didn't want to be embarrassed to see the turnout of those of you who've had it. So I hope you show up next Tuesday night. I hate to keep asking you to come to meetings, but it's the only way they ever back down for a minute and think is that they might get voted out of office. So I just ask you, not on behalf of me, but on behalf of you as a city, don't let them take control of your city again and bring back the darkness. You're better than that.
Here's a good question. Can we prevent Kim from being mayor? Yeah. Okay. The way our system of government is set up in the city, on the city council, the position of mayor is rotated. And every July 1, they have an election. The city council members get together and they cast ballots, and you get a new mayor. Now, by law, they can pick anybody on the council to be the mayor. It doesn't necessarily have to be the next one in line. There's been kind of this unofficial succession policy which would make Mr. Kim the next mayor because he's the mayor pro tem. But do the other members of the city council have to put him in as mayor? The answer is no. They could put any one of their members in. So it is a vote on the city council. It is a public vote. Then that's the only way you can do it. The 5 members of the city council would have to do that. As an employee of one of the banks about to close, I would like to know the reason why Calexico banks are closing. Is this a federal decision, city? What's the reason? Okay, the answer to that is that the Bank Secrecy Act, the various programs run by the Department of Treasury, the Federal Reserve, and the FDIC have imposed greater and greater burdens on banks to monitor and prevent money laundering. And where the problem really lies is the fact that the federal regulators are requiring the banks to determine the source of funds that are deposited into their institutions. Well, if you have a cash business, barbershop or something that takes in a lot of cash, okay, you're going to be making cash deposits, okay? Well, realistically, there's really no way that the person at the bank can really know where, when you put $1 or you hand $1 to them, where that dollar really came from. But the federal regulators say that you need to fill out a bunch of paperwork every time there's these cash deposits, okay? So what they've been doing is they've been imposing fines on all these banks along the border, okay? And so they basically have increased the intensity of these money laundering regulations on banks that are within, I think it's 5 miles of the, do you know the number? Somewhere around 5 miles, maybe less. Okay, right, okay. And thank you for telling me what that is, all right, because I couldn't remember. Okay, so these banks that are within the 25 miles of the border have come under more intense scrutiny for these regulations, okay? And really, it's kind of absurd. If you're a money launderer and you can't deposit money in a bank that's 5 or 10 miles across the border, what's going to stop you from going to Indio? I mean, really? I mean, if you're running drug money and you come across from Mexico, gee, you can't stop in Calexico? Yeah, I'll just drive to Indio and have lunch. I mean, that's how absurd, it really is absurd. So that's what's causing it. It's nothing the city's doing. It's the overregulation that's causing the banks to close. I am interested in starting a civics club at the high school. What can students to do to get involved or help out when it comes to city issues? What I would strongly recommend you doing is forming that club and then become involved with the city, come to city council meetings, and then maybe work in the various departments. Maybe we could have some of the people of the club work in our planning department. Some of them could work in finance, just kind of volunteer and do things. And you could really kind of see how city government work. We'd be happy to do that. The recreation department, community services department. So I think there's a lot of opportunities. We would be ready to work with any civics club at the high school to help them have a good, positive experience about city government. Will the city have to pay CalPERS for unfunded retirement? If, in fact, you contract out, I mean, one of the suggestions by Councilmember Real is that we contract out police and fire. One of the things that would happen if that were to take place is the city would have to do an actuarial study with the California Public Employees Retirement System to determine what its unfunded liability is for retirement, because if you contract it out, you still have to pay the retirement contributions for those employees that are no longer there. It's literally millions of dollars. And so there would be a huge unfunded liability. There would have to be an actuarial study to determine what that would be. Okay, Chief, do you have any more?
So again, we really appreciate your patience tonight. Thank you for your turnout. Please stay involved. It's not over. The games will continue forever. And it's only the community that moves the ball forward. Every time you guys show up, suddenly logic prevails. So we're hoping that logic prevails. And I'm going to say it one more time. 40 years of experience in government. I've never met a more honorable man than Richard Warren. I completely have no understanding as to what this is all about, and it can only be about the dark side. That's all it can be about. Because the man, every day he gets up, all he's thinking about is what we can do better in the city. And this is how they repay him. Frankly, it's disgusting. I've never seen anything like it in my life. So I'm hoping that you and the city feel the same, and I know you do because you showed up here tonight to find out what's going on. Take back your city, and let's look to the future that we have ahead of us because we have a really bright one. I'm looking forward to it. I already told my wife if it works out, I'm staying probably 5 years now. I like it here. And she freaked out. Oh my God, and it's on tape again. It's on tape again, but I feel like I'm 23 again. It's fun being a cop. I got good police officers. They don't want me to go, contrary to popular belief. Most of them actually want me to stay. And I haven't been a warm and fuzzy guy for the first few months. I've been pretty scary, but I think they believe that I want the best for them. So I look forward to being your chief for a very long time, and I know Mr. Warren look forward to being your city manager for a very long time. Thank you for coming.